Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
And welcome to the Comic Queens podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie. And today, Alex and I are very excited to talk about some webcomics that we've been reading recently that I think fall in the monster category.
And what are we including in the monster category?
Here's the thing. It's so freaking vague. I will say, I do feel like I've separated like the angels and demons and gods into a separate category.
Yeah.
Like they don't count. And then there's also the kind of like, I don't know. I kind of consider magic. So witches would also probably be more in the monster category. Kind of just anything supernatural, out of the ordinary.
Supernatural, not supreme beings.
Exactly. I think that's like a good way to like put it all together. But yeah, I mean, like we're talking werewolves, vampires. We all know that we've watched Twilight. We've mentioned it how many times. But then you have mermaids and you have fairies. I mean, it's so broad.
I also love like a true monster, like At Nomen, which I just read. That one is pretty monster-like.
I would say anything that's just not of this world could potentially be in the category. But I do kind of separate those like secular, like godlike figures.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, we've read quite a few different ones. I think that we officially got in the mood to kind of start talking about some new monster titles when we realized that both Call Me Master, a great monster story on Manta, and Fly Me to the Moon, a wonderful vampire story on Manta, have both just come back from a season break. So I just kind of got excited to start reading some monster stories. And today we're just going to talk through some of the ones we've been reading more recently that we haven't talked about before.
Yeah. So I have a theme for mine. My theme is mermaids. I love mermaids.
It's a good theme, especially for the summer.
Yeah.
This is nice.
It's a good summer theme. I was a swimmer. I've always been the water girl. So
Are you a mermaid?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the blue and green hair. So
You do, honestly. I said it and I was like, oh, wow, this is actually, it's up for debate now.
It's my aesthetic.
Yeah. It's your what?
It's my aesthetic.
Aesthetic.
Yeah.
Did you say upstatic?
No, I think I said aesthetic, but it just didn't come out right.
It's the mermaid. Your gills started growing back in.
Okay, so the first one I read is Die Melusine, which means the mermaid. It is in German. It's a romance, forbidden love. It's a new series on Manta, and it releases every Saturday.
That's a fun one.
It's really good so far. So it opens with us finding out about Archduke Kirian, who is also known as the Grim Reaper. So immediately caught my attention. I thought I like him already.
You know, as a dark romance fan does.
Yes. So he is the Lord of Triton. He is kind of the right-hand man of the Emperor. And he is on a mission to go and take out a rebellion that's happening. And he goes there basically to wipe out the rebellion. And Barton is like, I'm not rebelling. Please forgive me. Let me live. And he says no. They kill everyone. And then they go and find his collection. So they find out that Barton is like a collector of rarities. So they're going through all of this stuff. And it's just a bunch of like trinkets, basically. Large trinkets, small trinkets. But everything is like rare. Then they find a giant tank that is covered with a sheet. So they pull off the sheet and it's a mermaid in there. So they're all like, oh shit, this is a mermaid. We hit the jackpot.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So then we see that Kieran's right-hand man, Ian, is like all into the mermaid lore. He's like, you cannot harm this mermaid or you'll die. That's probably why that Barton died, is because he harmed this mermaid and so he had to die. And Kieran is like, no, he had to die because he started a rebellion and we came here to crush the rebellion. So a little bit of Kieran is not really believing in the lore and Ian is like, yes, all the lore, we have to respect the law of the land of the mermaids. So they go and she like starts beating on the tank that she's in. She's trying to ask them for help. She wants out of the tank. So she's like trying to say help and like banging her arms. And you see that she's all kind of beaten up and like has scratches and stuff on her arms, just like she's probably been doing this for a while.
Aww.
So Kieran sees this and he breaks the tank open with a sword and she kind of falls out of this tank. And she immediately is like, this is it. He is my human. He is my Sarenhide. So you find out from her perspective that she is supposed to find like her one and only person. And she has to kill him so that she can go back to the ocean. And she's like, this man, he's it.
Oh my gosh.
Also, she's gorgeous. She has long flowing pink hair, bright blue eyes, a beautiful long tail. So she also starts telling him like, hey, I'm hungry. So he gets her fish and they end up deciding to bring her back to the Empire. So they put her on the ship and she starts to get sick on this ship. She's also grown legs at this point. And we find out that another part of the lore is that mermaids shed tears of pearls. So they think and they see from her point of view that she was beaten by Barton and to like make her cry tears of pearls, but she never cried. So he never got any pearls.
She's like, you're not getting my pearls today.
Yeah, pretty much. So they take her back. She starts to get sick and she tries to like get him to stay with her. And he's like, no, you're too needy. I don't like pets who are needy. Because he's like, she's a fish. I'm keeping her as a pet fish.
But she has legs at this point.
Well, no, now she has a tail again because they put her back in water.
In the water, okay.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? She does have legs at this point because they dump water on her then because she starts to look like sickly and stuff. And then Kieran's like, okay, we need to get her taken care of. So they end up getting like a tub filled with water and put her in the tub. And that's when she gets her tail back. But yeah, so he's calling her a fish even when she has legs. He's like, wow, that's cool. You can have legs and look like a human, but you're still a fish.
You know what? If I was the mermaid, I'd want to kill him too.
At the end, he ends up calling her my little fish. And I love that. It's so cute. So when they get back, we see like a time hop of about a month, basically, that has happened. And there's a maid. Her name is Anne.
As all best maids are.
And she's bringing food to the mermaid. And so the mermaid doesn't have a name. She can't communicate with them. She doesn't speak, really. She said like a couple words like thanks and hungry and help. But like she can't speak, to them, really.
Yeah, she has to like pick up on it before she can speak a language.
Yeah. So she's trying to learn Anne's name and she starts calling Anne on. And Anne is kind of like, you can learn so many words. My name is not hard. Why can't you say my name right?
Aww.
It's really cute. And she calls her Miss Mermaid because she doesn't know her name. So she starts like braiding her hair and like feeds her these fish and squid. And then all of a sudden Kieran comes in and he's coming to check on the mermaid, and he hasn't really been around at all since she's been back.
Yeah.
Ian's come to visit, and so she hears the name Ian and thinks that Ian is Kieran. A little bit of confusion there. So she keeps saying like Ian, but she wants Kieran. But then Kieran hears this and is like, why is she saying Ian? So Anne sees him come in and he's trying to talk to the mermaid, and she tackles him and is like, what are you doing in here? Get away from the mermaid. And he's like, excuse me, do you know who you're talking to? I'm the Archduke Kieran. And she's like, oh shit, I did not know that, because she's brand new. She's like only been there for about a month. She hasn't met him yet.
Well, now she has.
Yeah, so she's like, please don't kill me. He brings the sword out, and the mermaid knows that this sword is like going to hurt. So she's like, jumps in front of Kieran pretty much to like stop him from doing this. And he asks her to beg. He's like, if you want to save her, you have to beg.
Okay.
So she does. She says, I mean, she doesn't really beg as much, but she's like, please don't kill her. So he spares her life. And then as he's leaving, he says, okay, I will spare her life, but you have to teach her how to speak. And next time I come, I don't want to hear Ian's name at all. She better know my name.
Okay.
So then he leaves and he goes, and we basically see some of his like past. So it's been kind of sprinkled in throughout that he had an older brother, and his older brother, it seems, died in like a horrific way. But we don't really know exactly what happened. But he starts taking a sleeping potion, basically. And Ian is going to talk to him and says, like, you know, are you taking this all the time? You shouldn't be taking it all the time. And he's like, it's better to take this than to not sleep at all.
Yeah.
So he takes the sleeping potion, and even still, he's like thinking back, and he's thinking about his brother. He's thinking about the guy that he killed, Barton. He's thinking about the mermaid and how she asked him to spare the maid, and that's where it cuts off. So still super early on, but I love this one. If you are into like mermaids, monsters, anything like that, this is great. Also, if you're into morally gray men, he's a very morally gray man.
I'm not gonna lie, it sounds kind of right up my alley.
You don't get called the Grim Reaper for nothing.
It's true. There are quite a few different ones where like the Duke is called the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, it brought me a little bit back to Carlton. He's like kind of a Carlton, which please
Bring
come
it
back.
We need that story to come back.
We do. But this is a great placeholder. Not a placeholder. This is a great story.
Nothing can be a placeholder for the fallen Duke.
Oh my gosh, it's such a great story.
But we won't get into that one. We just start crying. We have a cry break. It's fine.
We just put on hold music. We're pausing.
I know. Oh my gosh, so sad. But it is so interesting. I love this little like hint of jealousy we're already getting, especially super early on.
I know. He seems like he's going to be a little bit of a yandere.
All about it. Sign me up. Like, let's just go. Honestly, though, sounds great. I'm excited.
So I know that you also read a mermaid one.
I did. Well, partial mermaid. So this one's just like a fantastical one in general. So the story is on Webtoon, and it's somewhat new. It actually aired May 1st. So only like a month old or so. But the story is called The Means to Fly. It actually is surrounding Elva. She is a fairy who you see even in like her adulthood isn't able to fly, which just kind of ostracizes her from her people, essentially. Like everybody else is able to. Her dad is like gone as a child, and she blames herself for it. She's like, he must be so embarrassed that his daughter doesn't know how to fly.
Aww.
And so she just kind of feels alone. Meanwhile, there are a lot of different fantastical creatures in this world, and her mom is trying to encourage her to stay within like their realm. She's like, don't go near the water, don't go do these things, you know, very parent-like stuff. And you just get to see her basically in this flashback of her childhood, watching her kind of overstep those boundaries. And she ends up running into this strange girl who's singing, and she's never met her before. So the girl introduces herself as Nerissa, and Elva is extremely excited to introduce herself. She heard Nerissa singing. She's like, oh, I'll sing for her too. And she's terrible at it. She's so bad at singing, and it cheers.
So it's like me and you.
Yeah. Well, no. But it cheers Nerissa up because Nerissa had thought that she was terrible at singing. And so Elva just jumps at the chance to say, we're friends now. Let's meet back here. We'll hang out together. And she's breaking all of her mom's rules to do it because her mom's already said, no, don't do that. But basically, like, she's rushing to get all of her chores done. And, like, day by day, she's running over to the bay to go and hang out with Nerissa. When she sees Nerissa, she has legs the entire time. But slowly but surely, they throw in hints that definitely tell you that Nerissa is a mermaid. And or a siren. There's a potential for that. They still haven't clarified yet. But her brother, Elvius, is starting to get really suspicious of the friend because Elva won't bring Nerissa around anybody or tell them any information. So he flies over to, like, spy on them, essentially, and realizes that Elva's breaking all of the rules. And he kind of supports Elva in doing it, just knowing that she doesn't fit in anywhere. But very slowly, like, they end up spending the day together. You realize that outside of water, Nerissa can't see very well even. So the fact that, like, Elva and her brother are talking to her, like, she's still, like, kind of, like, searching for them and can't tell, like, what her surroundings are above water. And finally, when they're done playing for the day, the sun starts setting and Nerissa's like, you have to leave, you have to go. And where we've left off is just Nerissa's mom coming above the water to find her. And so I'm super curious to see where this one goes. The art is really beautiful, very bright colors. And just the design is super fun. But basically, it's like a forbidden love story also. Also a girl love, which I feel like I don't see very often in general. So really excited to see where this one goes.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think one of the great things about the mermaids is that you can play with color so much.
You really can. And the fairies, honestly, like the coloring has been like somewhat normal, but as soon as you see the wings are like complete multicolored rainbow. It's beautiful.
I love it.
So yeah, it just brings those fantastical little vibes in there. But I love it. I'm excited to see where it goes.
And it's easy to catch up on.
Yeah,
only
absolutely.
6 episodes.
Oh yeah, it took me less than an hour.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So definitely a quick one to read.
Well, the other one that I have to talk about today is also on Webtoon. It's called Bei Lin and Lee Yun. It's a romance. There are 33 episodes out and it releases every Friday. This is one that I followed on Canvas and has become an original. So that was really exciting to see. And actually, in the most recent episode, or like maybe 1 or 2 episodes back, the artist has actually said this is where the story is going to deviate. So there's going to be a lot of new content that wasn't in the previous Canvas episodes. So I'm really excited to see where this one goes from here. But jumping in, we start off with an Arctic researcher who happens to find an injured mermaid. And this is like a beautiful white mermaid. He has like kind of almost blade like fins on his arms that he uses like blades a little bit. So the Arctic researcher, who is Lee Yun, he tries to help the mermaid, but the mermaid is like on the defense, is like, doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know why this guy is like coming near him. And we also see that Lee Yun is wanting to help heal his wound. Like, he has basically like a harpoon wound.
Oh, wow.
So he pulls it out and he tries to disinfect it. And we all know disinfectants hurt. So the mermaid, because it hurts, is thinking that Lee Yun is trying to hurt him. So this is when he like starts to use his fins as a knife and like puts it up to his throat and is like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So they make it through this. Lee Yun puts like a waterproof bandage on his tail and is like, oh, you'll be fine. You can just, swim and it'll come off in a week. And he's like, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but here we are. So the mermaid ends up leaving. And Lee Yun is like, oh shit, I just saw a mermaid. I'm a researcher and I just let the mermaid go. What am I doing? So the mermaid ends up coming back with a fish as like a thank you gift.
Aww.
So he puts the fish on the like snowbank and then like goes back and kind of gets at a safe distance and is like, here's your thank you, but also I don't quite trust you yet. And so Lee Yun is like, oh, you're trying to like do a trade. So he starts to get this fish and says, you know, like, thank you, and starts to cook it and everything. And the mermaid sees that this is like making Lee Yun happy. And so he goes and gets a bunch of fish and just like a pile of fish and puts them up there because he like really wants to
make him
happy. It's so cute. I love this one. So then we see that as he's cooking the fish, the mermaid is like appalled. He's like, what are you doing? You're wasting some of the fish. You're not even eating the whole thing. And why are you putting it on fire? And like, he doesn't say any of this, but you can tell
he's flustered about it.
Yeah, he's flustered. And so Lee Yun is like, well, how do you eat the fish? And then you just see the mermaid like take the head off. And so there's just like, they're learning about each other. It's super, super cute. So then at this point, Lee Yun names him Bei Lin, which means white scales. So he invites Bei Lin to his camp. So he comes up and he starts wreaking havoc on the camp. He starts like rubbing granola bars everywhere in the snow. And he starts eating paper. Just
he doesn't know.
Crazy. He doesn't know what's going on. So he's just like doing all these random things. And Lee Yun is like running around like, no, that's not food. Or yes, that is food. And
oh my gosh.
Like,
I relate to this so much as the parent of a toddler.
It's kind of like that because they can't communicate.
You know, you got the mermaid destroying the camp and you have my daughter almost tackling somebody in a mariachi band. I mean, it just happens.
So at this point, he starts to think, okay, do I announce this as a research discovery? Do I like put all of this information out there? And he thinks through all the possibilities and he's like, no, if I do that, people will come for him. They'll like take him and do research on him or put him in a tank at like a zoo or an aquarium. And so he ultimately decides that no, he's not going to tell anyone that he found a mermaid. And he just starts spending time with Bei Lin while he's there. So Bei Lin makes a snow sculpture of Lee Yun. And Lee Yun is like, oh my gosh, this is great. It's like a perfect rendition of him. And so because he made the sculpture, and again, it was like well received, he ends up making like a ton of sculptures just all over.
Gosh.
Perfect renditions, every size, life size, teeny tiny ones. And Lee Yun is like, oh, he must want me to make one too. And so Lee Yun makes one and it is awful. It's like a snow blob.
I love it.
But Bei Lin just like treasures it. It's like holding on like this. I love this little snow sculpture. It's super, super cute. So then we see that it is time for Lee Yun to leave. So he's only there for a certain amount of time. He ends up leaving and he accidentally leaves one of his gloves behind. And so Bei Lin has this glove and you see him like go back to his little cave home and he has a flashback of like him and his family. Like it looks like his mother and father and a sibling. And then you see like all of them together and he looks super cute and happy. And then you see him by himself with this glove and he's all sad and it's really sad.
Aww.
So eventually...
Do we know what happened to his family?
No, we don't know what happened to his family. We also see that Lee Yun is like just going through life dazed. He misses Bei Lin too, and he's a professor and he ends up like ruining some of his students' papers by accidentally spilling coffee everywhere. He's like writing the wrong words on the board. He's just like out of it because he misses Bei Lin. So then we flash back to Bei Lin and we see that there's a ship that has the same logo as Lee Yun's glove that Bei Lin still has. And so he hops on this ship like on the back wing and is like, I'm gonna follow this ship. So you see him like following through. He ends up at a warm beach. He's an Arctic mermaid, and he's on this warm beach. He's like, you know, on the sand, and all these people are like, oh my gosh, it's a mermaid. And he's got this glove. He's like trying to hold it out to like tell people like, please find the owner of this glove. And they try and take it from him, and he snatches it back real quick, and he ends up going back into the ocean, and he like throws the glove because he's just like so upset about not being able to find Lee Yun. And Lee Yun sees this on the news. He's like, oh my gosh, he's here. Like, he followed me here. So he goes and he ends up finding the glove. And we see that Bai Lin, like, again, almost attacks him, like, with his little fin. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't recognize Lee Yun at first because when he was in the Arctic, he had all of these, like... Layers on, like a giant puffy coat and everything. And so you see he has a moment where he's like, what happened? Who is the skinny man? It's so cute. So then he ends up taking him back. He's like, I can't leave you here. Mm-hmm. This isn't good. And so he takes him back in his car. He's kind of getting sick again. We have another sick mermaid here. Mm-hmm. But basically, like, it's too warm. The ocean here is too warm for him. So he's like, I need to take him back to the Arctic. And he can't get him. He tries to stuff him in a suitcase to take him on a plane. But the suitcase breaks, and he's like, okay, that's not going to work. So he ends up taking him back to his apartment and putting him in an ice bath. And now, basically, he's just trying to feed him. So he's trying to teach him about different foods. He ends up putting, like, a plate of sushi in front of him with a bottle of, or with like soy sauce.
Delicious.
And yeah, it's a delicious meal. And he's like, look, humans eat raw fish sometimes too. And he eats the fish with like a bite with sushi on it. And he eats the sushi with soy sauce on it. Mm-hmm. And he like gets super excited. And then he just takes the bottle of soy sauce and like starts drinking it by itself because he's used to salt water.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like a regular drink to him. He's like super excited about this.
He's like, oh my gosh, water.
Yeah. And that's where it's left off. In the canvas, I know a lot more that happens in the future, but I don't know if it's going to be the same because the artist has already said that this is going to be like that there's going to be new content put in. So I don't know if it will take the exact same shape. But I love this one.
It sounds precious.
It's the same author who does Fathoms of Atonement and also The Reaper and the Waiting. I love this art style. It's gorgeous. I would read anything that this author does.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I know that you've talked about the Fathoms of Atonement.
Yeah. I think I've also talked about The Reaper and the Waiting. Mm-hmm. So it was only fitting that I throw this one in as well.
It sounds adorable.
I love it.
So wholesome. Well, it definitely leads me into the last comic we're going to talk about today, which is The Blind Prince. This is also on Webtoon, and I love this one. I feel like I had a permanent smile plastered on my face the entire time reading it. It's not really that new. There's 51 or 52 episodes out so far, and it is on hiatus for a little while, but we at least get a couple more episodes releasing here soon, just because of how it works with the release dates and the fast pass episodes that they have. So the series opens up and you see this group of like 3 boys or whatever, they're playing ball together and they end up knocking the ball into the woods and they're all too scared to go in. They're talking about how there are all these different theories about how the woods are really scary. Their parents tell them not to go in, etc. And they end up convincing one of the boys' little sisters, who was like sitting by themselves and reading, to go get the ball for them in the woods by like calling her a sissy and like telling her she won't ever do it. Mm-hmm. So she ends up going just to prove them wrong. And she stumbles upon this gate and like a wall of all these different multicolors. And she's really confused, obviously. And then the gate starts talking to her. So even more confusing. And she's like, who's there? Who is this? They say no one of consequence, which is just obviously a red flag right there. But she's a little girl and she's like, what do you want from me? And he says, oh, I have your ball. Like all you have to do is walk through here to come and get it.
Oh my gosh.
And so she does. She like stumbles through and then she can't go back out the other side of the gate. So she's now trapped on this side of the wall. And you see this creature with like feathers and claws pick up her glasses that have broken, and then he drops them into a cage with a prince who has no eyes. And he's like, glasses, that's funny. That's a funny joke. Ha ha. And you see that this prince has been trapped in there for who knows how long, indeterminate amount of time. And this creature is taunting him. Just saying, like, I thought we were birds of a feather, but apparently we're too different. You can stay in there until you change your mind. And he flies off. And so that's how the story opens. The main story, however, does revolve around Elaine, who is possibly like one of my favorite female lead characters I've ever met in a story. She is so beautiful. She's got her really long curly hair. She is trapped in her room. Her mom has her trapped away. And you see that she has feathers growing on her arms. Mm-hmm. So there is some sort of a curse that takes over her. She's not familiar with it. All she knows is that her mom is like, you can suppress it, but you have to be powerful enough to do it. And all this shows me is that your mind is weak. And she's tried like plucking the feathers herself to try to feel normal. And her mom is just like, it just means you have poor, willpower and you have to make this work, whatever. Well, she gets invited by her best friend Isabella to the birthday ball. And she's like, I really want to go. And her friend has sent multiple fruit basket invitations to try to coax the mom into it. And the mom finally agrees, saying, like, if you wear these, like, up to your upper arm gloves to hide your feathers and you keep yourself calm the whole night, then you can go. And so she goes and she spends a little bit of time with Isabella, but you learn that Isabella's twin brother Charles has basically been wooing her and they're like madly in love with one another. And so he tells her that he has a surprise for her at his birthday ball. And it turns out that it is that he's captured this creature called a rook, which looks like a crow, but it has glowing pink eyes. And it's said to have the most beautiful song like ever of any bird. Mm-hmm. And so he captures this and gives it to his sister as a birthday present. And he has a surprise for her as well. But you see that Elaine is able to hear the birds for like what they're actually saying, not as like a singing song. And they're screaming to be let out of the cage. And she runs away terrified. So Charles immediately figures out that something's going on, something's wrong. And Elaine is like, sorry, it was just so stuffy and crowded in there. And why do you have to capture the animals? Your dad teaches you to hunt. I don't know that I agree with it, etc. And he's like, actually, I wanted to bring you out here to show you something. And he shows Elaine that there's a glowing wall in the woods that he and his dad have stumbled upon. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you can't touch it. Like, don't go anywhere near it because it's really dangerous. Once you go in, you don't come back out. But it's for creatures of a different kind, essentially. And so she's really confused how he knows it, etc. But he brought her here to propose to her because he wanted a really beautiful setting for her to see. And so he goes to propose and asks if he can take off the gloves to put her engagement ring on.
Does he know about her
And he
feathers?
does not know about her curse.
Oh, no.
So she starts panicking, but she's like trying to keep herself calm, and she does it enough that she's able to suppress the feathers while he's putting the ring on her. And he goes, I want to get you a rook just like I got for my sister as a wedding gift. And she tries talking him out of it. She's like, Charles, that's not what I want. Don't get me a rook. I don't need that. I would much rather them be out in nature singing. And you know that she has friends that are rooks that have like flown around that she's met and can talk to. Mm-hmm. So she has a friend that's a rook named Kadena. And she's like, oh my gosh, it would just be terrible to know that I have this captured bird when I've made friends with them. And so she tries convincing him. Meanwhile, Kadena flies back and is like, your mom's looking for you. You shouldn't be out in the woods here. And Charles takes this as a sign that he's meant to be getting engaged because the wedding gift that he wants to get for her is right there in front of them. Mm-hmm. So he pulls out his birthday gift, which was a like customized gun, and he goes to shoot Kadena. And when Elaine goes to stop him, she grabs his arm and all of her feathers have grown out because she wasn't suppressing her feelings and emotions. And now she also has talons for hands. Mm-hmm. And so Charles freaks out. He like shoots in the wrong direction, doesn't hit Kadena, but he ends up freaking out. He's like, oh my gosh, you're a monster. He rips his arm out and her talons end up splicing his clothes. And she's like, no, let me explain. Like, it's just because I'm not calm right now. Like, let's all just, you know, breathe, everything else. And he's like, yeah, we should breathe. And she tries explaining, like, I've been cursed. It's why my mom locks me away all the time. You know, I still love you. I'm still the same person, blah, blah, blah. And he grabs her and he's like, you know what? I know you're right. I can't believe that you have loved me all this time so much that you felt like you couldn't show me who you are. And he's like, but it's okay. I see you for who you are now. And he pushes her through the wall. Yes. The same face that I made. Just jaw dropping. So Elaine is horrified. She immediately starts blaming herself. She's like, I can't even believe that I did this. Like, of course I did. It's all my fault. I should have, if I listened to my mom and didn't take off my gloves, I'd be getting married, you know, if all this stuff. Well, she still has the engagement ring on. She's still leaving it on just out of sheer, like, disappointment of everything that she's gone through. Even, like, disbelief. Like, no, Charles and I still love each other. It's fine. And she had made him a ring as well, like, on the spot with what she had found. She's like, he'll still marry me. I'll get out of here and it's fine. And she tries to go through and can't. And she just breaks down. Like, she's completely destroyed to know that somebody that she loved would ever do that to her and trap her in this world knowingly. Well, Kadena goes to find her, and it turns out that Kadena is of that world anyways. All of the Rooks are from the magical world on the other side of the wall, which is called Aerie. It's a kingdom, a magical kingdom that locks everybody in, but also locks everybody out in a certain way as well. So she's like, we just have to find a way home. There may not be a way home, and tries to calm her down. And as they're like stumbling through the forest, they come across a giant cage with a beautiful man with golden hair and no eyes. So you learn very early on in the story, Elaine is great at picking locks because her mom has locked her away for so long. She had to learn how to get out of her room occasionally, or her window, whatever else. And so this guy says, hey, let me out and I'll help you get back home. And it's fine. And Kadena immediately warns her, like, this is a magical realm. People are going to know you're not human, even though you have feathers growing on your arms. So maybe it's a little bit more of a gray area. But, like, don't trust people. Let's just keep moving and find a way home. And he says, I'm the prince of this realm. I can get you home. You just have to let me out. So she immediately just believes him. She's so sweet and naive. And she just picks the lock and lets him out. And he and his little tiny rook, he has like a very tiny little bird on his shoulder named Bartholomew. And he's like, thank you for saving us. We'll be leaving now. And she's like, wait, you have to take me home. And he goes, yeah, I definitely didn't forget about that. And I definitely wasn't lying to you. So let's go. And he's like, we just have to get to my coronation first. And then as soon as I get, once I'm the king, I'll definitely let you out. So she just believes him. She keeps following him through the woods. She's very unsuspecting. She still kind of has all of that weight on her. Like, she's processing throughout the journey now all of the different things that she's like, oh my gosh, I disappointed my mom. I disappointed Charles. Isabella's never going to know why I left, etc. And you do learn that Charles now in the real world has gone back to immediately tell his sister what happened. Mm-hmm. She is pissed to no end.
At Charles?
At Charles.
Good.
At like, you react without thinking. That's still the woman you love. Like, why would you not try to help her instead of condemning her to like a terrible fate? Mm-hmm. And of course, who else is at this ball overhearing it but Elaine's mother? And you find out that there's some sort of turmoil between the two families because Elaine doesn't have her father around. Mm-hmm. And it seems like there's something to do with it by Isabella and Charles's parents. And so it's why Moira, Elaine's mom, was so hesitant to let Elaine go to all of these different balls and become friends with the kids in general. And Moira's learning a lot of information for the new time, like her daughter's gone and everything else. But you learn that the mom has some knowledge about the magical realm, and that the Moira and the parents of the children, along with her husband, were all involved in mapping out this magical realm before there was a wall in existence.
Interesting.
So Moira decides that she's going to go, and Isabella decides that she's not abandoning her friend and she wants to go and help because she feels somewhat guilty as well. And she's like, I want my friend to know that I'm there for her. And Charles kind of goes to relieve himself of some guilt, but also because he's struggling with, if this is Elaine and I just trapped her into this world thinking that she's a monster when really, like, she meant no harm, then, like, I feel bad. So they all end up going into the magical realm to look for her, and they stumble across the prince, in quotation marks, because we've already met the prince. And now we're kind of questioning who's who. You see this figure with blonde hair, but he has beautiful glowing pink eyes. Glowing pink eyes. Prink. Glowing pink eyes. And a beautiful, like, feather cape. And he says that he's the prince of this kingdom, but that he had a prisoner who was extremely dangerous that was locked up. And he needs the humans' help in finding this prince. And they say, we know a human that's with him, or we can guarantee it, because Isabella's like, there's no way anybody else picked this lock. Like, I know that was Elaine. So Moira, of course, being startled by the fact that her daughter is a master lockpicker, is not so happy about it. But she makes a deal with this prince saying, I will help you find this prince, but you have to grant us exit. Like, me, my daughter, and these two children, you have to let us leave when we help to find this prisoner. And he shakes his hand and gives them the deal. And so now you're trying to figure out, who is the real prince? Who is this person if not the prince? And you go back to see Elaine and the prince just kind of getting to know one another. You find out Elaine is afraid of heights, and he creates this beautiful, like, rock path from, like, one land to another over a terrible rushing river underneath. And she's terrified of falling. So he just kind of holds her arm and, like, walks her through. And slowly, as they get to know one another, Elaine is just so happy to have somebody who's not judging her, because her feathers have spread even more. So she knows that she's hideous, but he can't see it. And he's not asking what she looks like or asking anything like that. He's just appreciating her for the fact that she's helpful by nature, just a kind person in general. And so she's kind of divulging all this information, like, oh, I was engaged, but also, who knows? I don't know what else, is actually happening on the other side. I'm sure Charles will find me, or maybe he won't, and then just very back and forth. Meanwhile, she kind of freaks out when she sees on the other side that there are crow people. Like, just these monsters that are essentially humanoid, but they are crows. And she just starts freaking out. The blind prince is like, what the hell's going on? Who are these people? And she goes, they're hideous monsters. And she runs away. And you learn that it's just her fear of, is this what I'm going to become? Because I've never seen anybody else with a curse like mine. I don't want to be this. They're crow people. They're not human in any form to her. And the prince goes to run after her and gets captured in a trap. And so he's again in a cage. And he's kind of dealing with his own internal turmoil, which is knowing that he has to take the crown and become the king of the kingdom. And he just hears his dad's voice constantly nagging at him, saying he's unworthy, he's weak, look at him, he can't save himself, he's in another trap, and meanwhile, he's relying on a person when he needs to learn that being in the position of power means relying on nobody but himself. And he just kind of runs himself into complete mental turmoil about it. So you see Elaine just kind of running into this field and laying down and accepting defeat. And she's like, I live here now. I'm just going to be a crow, and this is my existence for the rest of forever. Until Bartholomew, the little bird, ends up flying to tell her that the prince is in danger. And she springs into action, immediately devising a plan to make sure she can get him down from the cage. So she ends up purposefully triggering a trap and flying into the air so that she can swing from cage to cage until she lands on Sebastian, or the prince's cage. Mm-hmm. And so she immediately calls his name, gets him out of his mental and emotional turmoil. And she ends up climbing up the chain in order to find whatever, contraption it's attached to so she can release it down. Meanwhile, all of the crows in the trees end up attacking her, and it makes it so that it releases way too fast and he crashes to the ground, being knocked unconscious. So Elaine, as soon as she gets down to the bottom, is immediately concerned about the prince, again blaming herself. This is my fault. If I didn't leave him or run off, he wouldn't have gotten caught by the trap. I mean, just sending herself into mental turmoil. Kadena has already flown off to try to scout out to see what's going on, where they can find this kingdom that the prince is looking for and everything else. And so she's really like alone now. She has little Bartholomew, who only really communicates with the prince. And she's like, great, this is all my fault. And then 2 crow people, along with a very suspicious man, come up saying, oh, I'm the baron of this land. I know the prince. I'll help you guys to safety. Come to my carriage, which weirdly has a cage on the back of it. And Elaine just thinks nothing of it. Like, she's just so desperate for help. And she's so sweet and naive and wants to believe the best in everyone that she says, okay. So the crow people start carrying the prince. And she realizes very quickly, like, this is how I've gotten into this mess. I immediately trust people, and I have to stop doing that. And she looks at the carriage, realizes how suspicious it looks, and she uses her knowledge of engineering of carriages to go, oh, look at these wheels and the leather suspensions. That's such a cool thing for a ride. Can I look at them closer? And she's taking sticks and like jamming them in the different like parts of the vehicle so that it won't move, so that they can't take her away. And it ends up stalling enough that even though the crows end up drugging the prince, she's able to keep herself from staying captured and everything else. The prince gets drugged by these crow people, and very quickly they learn that because of his magical prowess, all it really does is kind of give him some sort of a buzz where like his world is a lot more colorful. He's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen colors in forever because I'm blind now, but it's so nice to see all these colors. And he's like not in control of his magic. So everywhere he steps, just like random flowers and things are sprouting from his out of control magic. And he very quickly like sees Elaine, doesn't process the fact that they're supposed to be getting kidnapped or captured. And he's just so happy to see her, and he gives her a hug. He's like, you're my saving grace. I love, like, you're just the wonderful sunshine of my life, and starts like dancing around with her. And she's like, we have to leave right now. And when he finally comes face to face with the Baron, you find out the Baron was accused of poisoning the king because the king started getting really, really sick. And so the prince himself was the one who just cast the Baron aside, said, you're not allowed in this kingdom. You have to leave. And the Baron is basically his mortal enemy. He's like, I never poisoned the king. So you wrongly accused me. And now I'll make sure that I can go back to the palace and you won't, essentially, because I know if you crown yourself the king, I'll never be allowed back. Mm-hmm. So he tries to kill the prince. And then the prince uses his magic to essentially try to kill the Baron back, which Elaine stops him from doing. She's like, just leave him tied to a tree. There's no need to kill him. We should just keep moving. And so they do. Meanwhile, the prince does explain how the magic works. And he says, you can use the magic in your hands however you want, but it's always temporary. You can't hold it in one place for too long. So you have to essentially like let it move. It's like an organic being, and you have to let it move and breathe, and you can just use it when it's in that moment. So it always wears off. And she kind of has this feeling that she's never going to make it back home. And she's never going to be human again because her hope is that in this magical realm, people could make her normal. And now she learns that it's eventually always going to wear off. Mm-hmm. She's like, great, I'm just going to be a crow person. I'm just resigned to know that this is my fate now. But she kind of decides, she's like, I think I could stay here. Like, nobody's judged me for how I look. Maybe I fit in here better than I thought. Mm-hmm. And so they end up making friends with the crow people that she had said were hideous monsters beforehand. And they end up basically taking them through all of these different realms to this place called Black Roost, which is where all of the different crow and bird people live. There are owl monsters and everything else. And you start to learn more about the warden, who is essentially this overarching being in the magical realm that, quote unquote, keeps everyone safe because he's built this wall around everybody. And so there's like this deep respect for him, almost like a god, saying like, this is the reason that we aren't hunted and poached by all of the humans, etc. And Elaine learns very quickly, she's like, this warden character doesn't sound quite right. She ends up talking to the prince, and it turns out that the warden is now posing as the prince and has stolen his eyes so that he can essentially try to mimic who the prince is and find out where the prince hid the crown. Because the crown is the artifact in this world that will allow them to be like the most all-powerful being with all of the command of the magic and everything else. The warden wants it to have absolute control because he already has so much power. But as soon as a king or someone is placed, they're allowed to put those regulations on him, which isn't what he wants. Mm-hmm. So it's essentially a race to the crown to see who is going to be the next all-powerful person in this realm. And Elaine has decided, she's like, I made the right choice in trusting the prince. I don't make the right choice all of the time, but this is the person I want to put my faith in. And so they decide that they're going to go together and find the crown. That's where we've left off so far. It is such a beautiful story. I swear to you, like, the little hints of comedy in this, like, have me genuinely laughing out loud. And I squeal at how adorable this story is in multiple different moments.
Can confirm.
Yes, can confirm. I've like forced you to look at it. But the art is just so beautiful. And honestly, like, I just love the character growth and the character development in general. Like, everyone is just so lovable. And I think it's just going to be a really great story. So I'm looking forward to it not being on a hiatus.
Yeah. I'm so glad you read this one. I know this has been on your to be read list for a long time.
Yeah, it's been on there for a while.
So I'm so glad that you had the chance to read it. It sounds amazing. So much adventure and such a cute story. And
I know.
The ones that have the music with them, I know you didn't mention this, but I heard the music when you were reading it earlier. I love those when they tie in music with the story. It just brings like a little something extra to the story.
I tell you what, there are several different episodes in this series with music in them, but the one that stands out the most to me, it's not really a spoiler, so I'll talk through it. But essentially when they're in Black Roost, this town with all of the crow people, Elaine is just so enamored with everything. She's like, this is a fantastical world and it's nothing like where I live. But also, she kind of doesn't know what her world is like because she's locked away all of the time. So she goes to explore and she basically finds the source of the music and sees all of these crow people dancing. And she gets really excited. And immediately this crow person comes up and says, please, will you give me the honor of a dance? And when she goes to take his wing, the blind prince goes, no one's dancing, and cuts them off from doing so. And she's really confused as to why she's not allowed to dance with the crow person. And the prince has to explain that it's a mating ritual, so it's them deciding who their wife is. And he's like, don't marry them because you have a fiance. And she's like, I don't know if I have a fiance anymore. And so the prince ends up dancing with her because she still wants to dance. And he's like, I won't force you to marry me. Ha ha. And he really slowly realizes like the admiration he has for her and the respect that he has for her also kind of just stems from affection in general. And he's really starting to have those feelings. So they have like this beautiful song that's playing in the background along with the fountain sounds, which was a great touch because there's a fountain behind them. Mm-hmm. It was so wholesome to watch them dance together. And I was laughing and squealing at just how adorable it was. I highly recommend this story. It is so good.
I mean, what more could you want?
Nothing. I want nothing else. But honestly, thank you so much for listening. If you have a favorite monster story, then definitely send us the recommendations. We're always happy to take a look at them. And if you haven't been reading Call Me Master or Fly Me to the Moon since they've come back, I highly recommend those as well. Mm-hmm. They're really great. But thank you so much for listening to the Comic Queens podcast. Looking forward to talking to you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Bye.